Zone. Media welcomes you back to our studio. Thank you very much. You have missed us for some time, but we are around. Today, we are going to look at a very important issue. The three things that have happened to Biafrans and Igbos at large. These are the election of Donald Trump of United States, the stoppage of war in Ukraine, the launching of my journey in service by former Nigerian military president Ibrahim Badabousi Babangida. All these three have one advantage or the other today. Redeclaration of Biafran nation, exposition of how Nigerian government have treated the Igbos and the Biafrans using their propaganda machine and those allies that support evil, especially the Great Britain, for oil gratifications and other minerals within the Biafran nation. For Media, we will congratulate the former maximum military president Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida for the book he launched. He could have died with those memories without exposing what has happened, the atrocities committed by each Nigerian head of state, president, and their allies against the Biafran nation and Igbos at large. For Media, he is remembered for exposing the atrocities committed against the Igbos. IBB, as he is known, exposed many things that any other head of state would have not exposed. He exposed the lies of General Jacob Gowon, whom they used, Britain used to execute the Nigerian Biafran war. The good news is that IBB collaborated all the truth told by Ojukwu during and after the Civil War, while Gowon used lies to cover all the atrocities they committed during the Nigerian Civil War and after, before he exiled himself to Great Britain that used him to execute the Nigerian Biafra war. There is no doubt any learned man will not believe that Nigeria is a terrorist state. He exposed the terrorism Nigeria committed during and after the Civil War, including the elections that took place. But we are not interested right now in this very election. We are only concerned with the terrorism committed against the Igbos, against Biafrans, the killings, the massacre, the starvation of Biafran children, and all whatnot. All these are genocidal and crime against humanity, which the Biafran government, now USB, has to take the advantage of all the against Nigerian State and Britain. This means that the Nigerian Civil War, on the other hand, is described as terrorism perpetrated by the foreign power using the local terrorists against the Biafran nation and the Igbos in particular. The terrorism did not stop with the Civil War. It continued. For instance, all senior officers used by Britain during the Terrorism Act against the Biafran nation and the Igbos also came back to become either the head of state or the president of Nigeria. Thus, they continued with their Terrorism Act, perfecting themselves using bribery and propaganda against the Igbos, both internal and external, using bribery and propaganda to perpetuate all their atrocities against the Biafrans and Igbos in particular. Indeed, all these British terrorists who claim to be the head of government in Nigeria expose themselves outside what they do and inside what they do. Terrorism becomes the act of governance in Nigeria by every head of government. For instance, IBB himself in 1986 registered Nigeria into OIC. With the registration of this OIC, that is Organization of Islamic Conference, as it was then known, but now it is called Organization of Islamic Operation. This granted all the Muslims in Nigeria that Nigeria is an Islamic nation. Christians were not consulted, but was an agreement between the government of Bangladesh and the Arab nations and their businessmen. This vibrated and heated Nigeria as a secular state. With today's registration, the influx of Islamic organizations from Saudi Arabia and Iran flooded into Nigeria. These were covered without exposing what was going on internally until the return to civil rule in 1999, for which the former military head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, who also was one of the frontline fighters used by Britain to perpetuate genocidal killings and destruction in southeastern region known as Biafra. Chief Obasanjo, who ruled between 1999 to 2007, allowed the implementation of Islamic and Sharia law in Nigeria, complementing both the Babangida intuition and the constitution handed over to him, drafted by Abdul Salami Abubakar in 1999 to allow and extend Islamic domination in Nigeria. To perpetuate this, the Islamic leaders or political leaders from the northern part of Nigeria began to extend their hands with the ICC, Al-Qaeda, and all other Islamic terrorists all over the world until they settled with Boko Haram, ISWAP, Fulani Hismen that terrorize Christians all over the nation, promised to convert Nigeria into Islamic State. The southern Christians, especially the former Biafran nation from eastern part of Nigeria, decided to revert to get themselves out of the recolonization of Islamic terrorists terrorizing the entire nation. The good news indeed is that General Buhari, who was one of the terrorist soldiers that terrorized Biafra and killed many Biafrans and Igbos, became the head of state, was accused first of saying during the time when the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, was in leadership, I quote, Buhari said, attack on Boko Haram is attack on the north, unquote. This was relayed on channel television on 15th December 2024. Again, on 12th June 2011, the former governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, who is currently the Nigerian vice president, stated, I quote from allafricannewspaper.com, we created Boko Haram, Shettima, unquote. The new governor of Borno State, Alhaji Kashim Shettima, has agreed that the outburst of Boko Haram activities were created by them. Quote, the government of both the North and the central government became terroristic in their activities against the Christians and against the Biafran nation. They were accused of being part and parcel of Boko Haram sponsorship. For instance, United Arab Emirates Federal Court of Appeal convicted 6 northern Muslims for being sponsors of Boko Haram. This was dated 25th of March 2022, during the time of Muhammadu Buhari as the president of Nigeria. On 26th March 2022, the United States sanctions 6 Nigerians for aiding Boko Haram. But before then, we will listen again to a Nigerian former Navy commander who was intelligence officer.
Yes, it has always been the case. Our problem is religion and social-cultural. I mean, people will expect me to come here and start talking about kinetics, about operation and so on. I've been an operational commander all my life. I've commanded warships, I've commanded troops, I've commanded men outside Nigeria and so on. But I'm not going to come to your station to discuss kinetics. The problem is not kinetics. In 2017, 2016, I'm always a member of the Security and Intelligence Brief at the Defense Headquarters. I told them, General Lawrence Shakin then, that the challenge we have in this country cannot be solved the same way we solved the problem of Niger Delta. The Niger Delta problem was solved during Yaradua time, basically by me. And I told them that we can't use that same template for Boko Haram. I told General Lawrence Shakin to look at the center of gravity of the problem. And we all came together. I was made a member of the committee, including Atahiru that just died was a member of that committee in 2016, 2017. And we came to a conclusion after several arguments. The arguments were 3. To identify the center of gravity of the problem, one group said it is the fighters, the Boko Haram fighters are the center of gravity, so we should go after them. Another group said the center of gravity of Boko Haram is Abubakar Shekau. So if we go after Abubakar Shekau, then the problem of Boko Haram will be solved. I took exception to the group. I said that is not the center of gravity of the problem of Boko Haram insurgency that we were having between that 2012 and 2017. And General Lawrence Shakin asked me, Olami, why are you giving problem? What is the problem? Give us the answer. And I told General Shakin that if I tell you the answer, you're not going to be able to solve the problem. He said, what is the problem? I said, the center of gravity of Boko Haram and insurgency in Nigeria are the sponsors of that program. It was beyond us. Because the job we need to do is kinetics. Fight, destroy places, resolve issues. Yep. But we cannot resolve issue of sponsors of Boko Haram that were in Buhari's government, that we know them.
When you say we, who
I was in the military intelligence. Okay. And the defense headquarters staff that I work with, they know. And that was why we couldn't pursue that aspect that could have resolved that problem. Because you need to arrest people. And recently, 400 people were gathered as sponsors of Boko Haram. Why is it that Buhari government has refused to try them?
So the government knows sponsors of Boko Haram?
Of course, it's in the news. In April this year, the government said they have arrested 400 Bureau de Change related, people that were sponsoring Boko Haram. They told us. And Abu Dhabi also helped us to arrest few Nigerians, tried them, we know them. Why can't this government, if not that they are partisan and they are actually part of the charade that is going on, why can't they bring those people out for trial?
So the Bureau de Change operators on the one hand, but you particularly said people in government. Are those part of the Bureau de Change, or those people that you say are in government are still there, government is aware, and government is condoning them?
The people I mentioned that are in government are not these ones they just arrested. You remember this Boko Haram issue started since 2012.
Yeah.
And I was in the military intelligence that time. We arrested those people. It is my organization that actually conducts interrogation and interview. And they mention names. I mean, I can't come on the air and start mentioning names of people that are presently in government now that I know. Presently in government. That the boys that we arrested mentioned. Some of them are governors now. Some of them are in the Senate. Some of them are in Aso Rock. Why should a government try to cause this kind of embarrassment and insecurity to the sense of what happened yesterday? And the solution I gave them in 2017, because when I identified the center of gravity for General Shocking, and they couldn't pursue it, because some of them were ministers. And what I'm saying now, the Department of State Services are listening to me. They know them.
Yeah, you know, Commodore.
So the solution I gave them was that if we can't...
Thank you very much. We continue. Of Nigeria, he will recount his ordeal for everyone to note. Then we will also allow the U.S. Congressman Scott Perry to air his own view whether it is acceptable, denied, or not. The world knows, Nigerians knows, is the truth. And in the next program, we will expose more on that. Listen.
$1 billion annually on this organization, and with the things that you hear, well, many of us, probably most of us in this room, agree with projecting America's power for the good of all the world around the globe. Quite honestly, if our enemies were asked to design a foreign aid program that would actively undermine the United States of America at maximum cost to the taxpayer, they would be hard-pressed to create a scheme more effective than USAID. Afghanistan, and I'll just characterize it as left in August of 2021. August of 2021. So the Taliban's in charge. Taliban threatens the lives of the NGO personnel distributing USAID. They claim credit for USAID distribution. They interfere with the distribution of USAID aid. They tax the beneficiary of the aid. They tax the delivery service. They steal the food commodities. They divert the funds. They extort citizens for protection for USAID aid. They create sham procurement schemes, and they threaten the lives of those who oppose those schemes. Now, that all occurred before August of 2021, when we were there. When we were there. Now, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You could just read. The Taliban is classified, and if you don't know, the Taliban's in charge of Afghanistan. They're classified as a specially designated global terrorist organization by OFAC. So post-2021, so this is last year, 2024, we spent $697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan. I don't know what we think we're going to change in Afghanistan. We lost 22,000, lost or wounded 22,500 Americans in Afghanistan over the course of our term there in the war, spending over $2 trillion. We're just going to keep on spending because somehow we think it's going to get better. And if you're wondering who's in charge of Afghanistan getting the money, and that money I just mentioned, the $697 million is on top of, and is in addition to the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of $40 to $80 million. Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarajuddin Haqqani. The Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden, who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end.
The motive behind this program is to let the Finland government, the United States, and those allies who support Nigeria in their propaganda, in their bribery and corruption system, and also the influence and inducement being made for them to accept some lies being perpetrated by the government against Mazi Nnamdi and Simon Njoko Ekpa, that they are terrorists, that they are causing trouble in Nigeria, while they themselves, the government, who are the culprits, who have been indicted internationally, are taking themselves out of it and be presenting the people they have been intimidating for years as terrorists. Thank goodness that the book from IBB has exposed their atrocities, the game they are playing against the Igbos. They want Igbos to die and no one to occupy the zone. They have killed many young men and women, children, and want to eliminate everything that concerns the Igbos. But unfortunately,
Gib Secondhand-Stücken ein neues Leben. Mit Vinted. Lad jetzt die App herunter.
As a result, we are using this opportunity to call on Finland government to act swiftly to review the case of Simon Njoko Ekpa being held by Finland government using Nigerian propaganda as well as employing the services of the new United States government, headed by President Trump, to intervene on behalf of Mazi Nnamdi as well. This is because Nigerian State has been declared internationally as condoning and having members of the sponsors of Boko Haram in their various governments, including the present-day government of Tinubu, who himself once declared that he does not believe in Nigeria. Yet, they are using the opportunity of the resources in Biafra land, which they accumulate for themselves, their families, to keep those agitating for Biafra in their various prisons, using terrorism as a leveling allegation, which they themselves have been leveled against by international organizations, countries, and yet they are looking for a scapegoat using Biafrans and Igbos in particular. Once again, Alex Top of Finland, Donald Trump of United States of America, and Vladimir Putin of Russia must be revisited by those pushing Biafra recognition and do not fail to organize themselves into legal actions at various levels against Nigerian State. With this, we come to the end of this very program. We ask everyone to share these videos to their loved ones, and those who have not subscribed, to subscribe until we come to you once again. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Bye.